Hello and welcome back to Raising Healthy Mothers. So if you listened to last week's episode, you will know that I think we have it all wrong about self-care because we are trying to copy what other people are doing and we are not fitting it into the season of motherhood that we are in right now, or even the season of the year that we're in right now. So this week, I'm going to kind of dive a little bit deeper into that and go, okay, so now we've identified what season of motherhood we're in, or, exactly what we have to do that is going to actually stick. I'm going to say, okay, now you've got that, stop making excuses. And this is how to prioritize yourself. Now, over the last 6 years, since becoming a mother, finding time for myself, prioritizing myself, has always been hard. And of course, it's partly because we give so much to our babies and we get so used to that because they do need us so much. They are so helpless, they're so vulnerable. And then as our children get older, we're so used to be in that position of helping and being needed that we just kind of go along with it, even when actually technically we could help them help themselves a lot more. So as an example, when we're thinking about self-care in terms of a self-care ritual that I really tried to do like way too early on in my motherhood was when my son was probably about 3.5 or 4, I'd say. And he was still waking a couple of times in the night. And he absolutely refused my husband. He just would not allow my husband to do anything. And while I tried really hard to listen to the experts and say, no, you must let him get used to dad, don't take it on yourself. It honestly was just so much easier to just do it rather than let him scream for a couple of hours until he just fell asleep exhausted. That just didn't feel like a kind thing to do to me. And perhaps people will still hear that story and go, no, you should have persevered, you shouldn't have given up so soon. Well, I know how I felt for my kid, and this is true for you as well. Like, no matter what, you know what feels realistic to you. And, I gave it a good go. We gave it a really good go, taking it in turns for bedtime, and he just wasn't having anything of it. Now, look, he's now 6.5. Every night now, he is perfectly happy. He doesn't mind at all who puts him to bed. Sometimes it's dad, sometimes it's me. We don't really have a particular routine on it. I love lying with him now and reading to him to go to sleep. It's not a chore. And when he wakes in the night, because he does still wake in the night about once, generally only once, he will either come into the room and my husband will take him back to bed. No issue whatsoever. So if I could have gone back in time 2 years ago and told myself that, in a couple of years' time, it's going to be fine, do you know what? I would have felt so much better. So I hope that little story there is going to help you feel a lot better. But anyway, back to my original story, which was when he was 3.5 and he was waking up so much in the night, I decided that actually, do you know what would be a lot easier if I just slept with him. And we did a bit of a swap. So my youngest at that time, she was just over a year old, and she went in to co-sleep with her dad, and I went in and slept on the floor with my son. And as I said, he was waking once in the night, and that was enough. Just me being there was enough for him to go back to sleep fairly easily. But what I really tried to do in that season was I tried to get up really early, because while I was feeling really touched up overnight, not sleeping in my own bed and feeling fairly grumpy about it, I was like, right, I'm going to have a morning ritual where I get up early and I meditate and I journal and I just do all these things that are going to make me feel good. And it was a real double-edged sword, because on the one hand I did feel good. That was when I was most consistent with journaling, and it did work for me. I kept thinking, no, journaling doesn't work. When I look back on the journaling that I did then, I could see how important it was for me back then. I did also meditate like every single day. I listened to a guided meditation, which really, really helped me feel a little bit calmer and more myself. As often as possible, I try and make a cup of tea and drink it on my own. And if I could, I'd also do some yoga as well. The problem was I really got peed off if I was disrupted during that morning routine, because I had set in my mind that is what I did. I would wake up, I'd do meditation, I'd do my journaling. And I decided that if I didn't get those things done, then the whole day would just be ruined. And it was true. It was a real night and day situation where I could see that if I didn't get those things done, my day was much harder. But the problem is, it wasn't actually realistic in my season of motherhood then. And when I look back, I think I feel for me, because actually I think what I really needed was a little bit more sleep and the ability to say, I'm just going out for a walk when I wake up. Now, I do know that was hard at the time, because I think at at that point, my children were not great at letting me get out in the morning. And maybe it could have been something I persevered on, or maybe it would have just been one more thing that was too hard. But perhaps there could have been something else I could have found to do that would have fit better into my season of life, because I think I just needed the sleep. So today, in this episode, I wanted to talk about what actually works when you're ready to make that change. The small, simple rituals that you can build into your real life and then keep going with. Because like I said, I think that routine did work in the sense that it made me feel like myself, but I put too much pressure on myself to actually get it done. And then it actually only lasted for a couple of months before it just stopped working. And I do wonder whether perhaps if I just started smaller, maybe I just did the meditation and maybe that would have kept going and I would have kept it up 3 years later. But as a starting point, the reason why these kind of big, elaborate, very pressured morning routines fail is because they just don't work for us, for mums who are still being woken up multiple times in the night. That perfection that we're chasing just leads to frustration when they get disrupted, because they will get disrupted. We cannot rely on our children, waking up at a certain time. More often than not, they feel that we've left the room. They feel the lack of our presence and they just go and find us. And we feel like, well, actually, maybe we feel a bit guilty as well, that maybe we should be enjoying our children. Maybe we shouldn't be trying to find time for ourselves. Maybe we should be snuggling up with them and enjoying those cuddles as well, because, we keep being reminded that we've only got 18 summers with them and they're going to fly the nest. And of course, they're not going to be wanting to be cuddled first thing in the morning in a few years' time. And that's the problem. If we have this kind of perfect morning routine, we have this push and pull of should I, shouldn't I? So that's why whatever I do in every work that I do with clients, it always comes from taking small, step-by-step, consistent changes. And that's where the power of micro rituals comes in. 5 minutes to yourself can completely change your whole day. And this is something I've really come to appreciate recently. In the final week of the summer holidays, I finally started going, okay, do you know what? I've loved the lions, but it's now time for me to just start doing something first thing in the morning. Because I realised although I love the mornings and I do like waking up early, I'm not a people person first thing in the morning. And if you are a mum of young children, then you will know that there is nothing more annoying from someone who is not a people person than when your little people wake up, because all they want to do is climb on your lap to chat, to tell you all about, all the things that have been built up overnight or something. And I'm just like, I just want to be left alone. I don't want to be climbed over. I've been cuddling you all night, probably. I just want to be left alone. And that's why getting up and doing one thing for 5 minutes can completely shift my day. It can make such a difference. It can be the difference between being a mum that can respond with patience and calm and understanding and good humour, and the mum who yells, which is exactly the mum I do not want to be, and the exact mum that I started becoming by the end of the summer. And it's not about what the whole ritual looks like. It's not about me telling you this is exactly what I do and you should do it too. It's about understanding the intention behind it. This is an essential part of my day. It's essential that I look after myself. It's essential that I care for myself. It's essential that I prioritise myself just for the start of the day so that I can care for my family effectively. So for example, it could be getting up quietly if you've been co-sleeping and going downstairs and making a hot drink and sitting quietly with that drink, staring out the window, maybe looking at the trees or the clouds or whatever you can see out the window. Maybe it's about writing one line in your journal when you wake up first thing in the morning and you write something that you're grateful for. Maybe it's listening to a 5-minute meditation, a good morning meditation. Maybe it's doing yoga for 5 minutes. Maybe it's taking 3 deep breaths first thing in the morning when you first open your eyes. I know it can feel like really simplistic to say these things, and it's about finding the thing that works best for you. For me, it was always having a hot cup of tea, because I love a good cup of tea, and it does not taste good when it's gone cold and had to be reheated. And so for me, finding those 5 minutes where I can make a cup of tea and hopefully drink most of it before someone comes downstairs makes a big difference. So actually what works for me is getting up, because my children thankfully do sleep in a little bit long enough for me to kind of get up and go downstairs. I get up, I put on the kettle, I make my cup of tea. While the tea is brewing, I like to brew it for 5 minutes because I like a strong cuppa. I do some stretches. And then once the tea has brewed, I sit down and I read my book while drinking my cup of tea. Now, more often than not, I do get joined by one or both of my children while I'm in the middle of that. But to be honest, even the fact that I've had just a couple of minutes as a starting point on my own makes a big difference to me. And hopefully one day I will be able to drink my whole cup of tea. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't get disrupted, and that's perfect. So how can it work to make sure that this actually sticks? So you may have heard about anchoring your habits to something else. So pairing your chosen ritual with something you already do. Like I said, I do my yoga while the tea is brewing. I have to wait 5 minutes for the tea to brew anyway. I might as well do a 5-minute yoga sequence. It might be that as soon as you wake up, as soon as you open your eyes, you put on a guided meditation and you listen to that instead of getting up straight away. It might be that as soon as you wake up, you do some stretches first thing in the morning. Now, I have actually mainly focused on what you do first thing in the morning, and that's partly because I find it so much easier to set in a ritual or a routine first thing in the morning before someone else has a need that I have to attend to. And it just makes it so much easier. I find if I wait until the evening or later in the day, it's so much easier to just push it away, forget about it, and so on. But obviously, do what works for you. If you're in that season of life where you absolutely cannot wake up early right now, don't do an early morning routine. Do something in the evening, and it could be that instead of kind of climbing into bed and going straight to bed, you listen to a meditation, or you do your stretches, or while you're brushing your teeth, you do your whatever deep breaths or your affirmations or whatever it is that makes you feel good. Help make it an automatic thing that you do as part of another activity, not something else that you have to tick off your checklist or whatever. Once you pair it with something else, and it just becomes so much more embedded. Remember, it's not about overhauling your whole life. It's not about having kind of a 10-step morning routine that you cannot stick to because of the season of motherhood you're in. It's about starting small. I give you permission to start with one 5-minute ritual that you repeat every single day. It has so much more impact than a 1-hour routine that you only manage to do once a fortnight, or that you start doing and get disrupted and get really annoyed about. So your action point for today is to choose one ritual from the examples or one of your own. I'd love to know what you choose. Please send me a message on Instagram and let me know what you choose, and anchor it into something that you already do daily. And again, let me know what it is. Is it when you put on the kettle to make a cup of tea? Is it when you're brushing your teeth? Is it while you're washing up? Whatever it is, what is it that you can do? One self-care ritual that you can do, and what are you anchoring it to? And can you do it every single day this week? It's not about perfection, it's about consistency in the season that you are in right now. Now remember, the back to school self-care week starts on Monday, and it is not too late to join us. You're absolutely on time. There's no such thing as too late. You will get one small step every single day to help you build rituals that actually stick. Plus you get the support of all the other mums in the group. There are quite a few in there already who have signed up and are ready for change too. You can find the link in the show notes to sign up. I'm so looking forward to starting that week together. Bye for now.